Hi and welcome back. My name is David Malamed and I'm a forensic accountant and fraud investigation expert of about 20 years now. This is Forensic Files, where I'm going to tell you an actual case that I worked on, what we saw, what we learned, and what happened. The interesting thing here is it has to do with an association. A group of members. There were thousands of members, and the executives of the association were going to conferences. They were going to conferences that were very expensive. There was flights, there was a conference price, there was food. So what would happen was, in advance of the conferences, so these executives wouldn't be out of pocket, a check would be written to them so they could pay for all of their expenses. Okay, that seems pretty simple and makes sense. Who wants to be out of pocket? Now, these types of conferences could be anywhere between $10,000 to $25,000 in cost for all of those things put together. The interesting thing was that when the executives would get back from their trip, they would be submitting the same expenses that they had been provided money for in advance for reimbursement. They were double dipping. How were they doing this, and how were they able not to get caught? It was because there wasn't a centralized service in terms of expenses and checks being forwarded in advance. So the advances weren't talking to the reimbursements. What happened though was a whistleblower blew the whistle, and we were able to go in and do the analysis. Now, something else interesting happened, and it usually doesn't happen to most companies, but this company had a second issue. The second issue that they had was that they believed that their treasurer was committing fraud as well. They said to me, look, David, we've got 10 examples for you that will show that fraud existed. All we need you to do is be the independent expert, look at the work we've done, and provide us with a report, and we'll be able to take care of it. We've already told the treasurer that he's on leave, that he's not getting pay, and that he should prepare to go to jail. So I asked for the information, my team and I went through it, and through every one of their 10 examples, we were able to see that it wasn't necessarily fraud, maybe sloppy accounting, but not fraud. Having to go back to your client and tell them that you don't find fraud is very difficult. But that's what we did. We took a pause and went back to the client and said, there's no fraud here. We're not seeing the same things that you are. Let me show you. The client was very upset, and they said, we need you to do a deeper dive. We went back and we did do a deeper dive. We looked into more transactions related to the treasurer. We looked at more disbursements related to the treasurer, and we found nothing. We had to go back to the client again. Going back to the client here was even more difficult because they truly believed that they had identified fraud. And I remember saying to the client, look, we've done it again. We've looked through everything you've asked us to, and we're just not finding it. And they said, David, we need you to do an even deeper dive. At this point, I said, look, I don't believe that my team or myself are providing any value add here. We've looked twice and we're not seeing it. And they came back to me and they said, but we've already told the individual that he's a fraudster and he's going to jail, and we've put him on suspension without pay. I understood and I understand what they were saying. And the only advice I could give them was, you need to call your lawyer and you need to speak to your lawyer because there is nothing here that I see. Now, this association was appreciative of both that I was able to demonstrate that the treasurer had not committed fraud, which was a relief to them, but exposed them legally. And I remember presenting to them on the findings regarding the executives. And even though a significant amount of money was lost, they stood up and they applauded me because I was able to identify where the exposure was, and they were able to set controls going forward that would stop that fraud from ever happening again. Hopefully you enjoyed the story. Part of the Forensic Files My name, as I told you at the beginning, is David Malamed, and I'm a forensic accountant and fraud investigation expert. For those of you who enjoyed this video, please subscribe below, as well as leave me a few likes. I've got lots of videos on forensic files that I've worked on, as well as other fraud-related topics. Thanks again for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you again. God bless.